What's up, y'all? Hello, everyone. Okay, so I know you may be looking at my shirt like, hold up, is that the same dress from The Little Mermaid? But I'm here to tell you it is not because, baby, this is a shirt, okay? That was a dress. Of course, you didn't know it was a dress because you only saw the top. But that was a dress. This is a shirt. You know, they built different. They both green, but they built different. But yes, I like me some green, so I've got the green going on. I wonder how many times I'm gonna say, in this open. Okay, so as you guys can see, I'm obviously really, really, really excited to be here. And why is that? Well, drum roll, please. The Expanse. So The Expanse is one of my favorite shows of all time, quite possibly my favorite show of all time. And so we are going to be talking about it today in what I'm going to be calling short stuff or short bits. I'm not sure which one I want to use yet, but it's going to be one of the two. But basically, what that means is that I'm going to give you guys a brief summary overview of the show. This is going to be for shows that I haven't seen in a while or shows that I love that just like I don't have time to give a full review or discussion for, but I really, really, really want everyone in the world to watch it. So we're gonna start with The Expanse because, like I said, it's quite possibly my favorite show of all time. So I'm really, really, really excited to do that. Let's check that there's nothing in my teeth. Okay, cool. With this lipstick, I get like kind of self-conscious of that. Mm, okay. All right, so we are going to start with The Expanse. Let's get to it. Hey everyone, editing Kayla checking in, asking you guys to please like and subscribe. I forgot to do it again. But please like, share, comment, subscribe. I love that you guys know that I love talking to you about the show. All right, cool. I will see you guys soon. All right, so basically for this, I don't know if I am going to like write summaries like I normally do. Of course, I have like a little handy dandy list of what I'm going to be talking about, but I don't know if I'm going to have an actual summary. So for this, I'm actually just going to do it off top. And I hope that you guys like it. So, The Expanse is a show that takes place mostly in outer space, but it's about Earth, Mars, and the Belt. And of course, even in the future, humans cannot stop colonizing things. So they've colonized the belt. It's so great, can't you tell? And it's about their relationships to each other. They're basically all on the brink of a civil war. They're in the middle of a Cold War because, again, humans be humaning, they be beefing, they can't never seem to get along. So one day this really rich girl goes missing, and when rich people go missing, people actually care. So she goes missing, and everything in the galaxy goes afoot because people start discovering some things, and a lot of people die in the process. It's great. And so the show follows three different perspectives, but it's gonna mainly follow our Rossi crew as they end up in the shenanigans on accident. Everywhere they go, people die, but it's on accident, not intentional. Um, so we're going to follow them as they become basically the witnesses to all of these horrible things that are happening throughout the galaxy. And essentially, because they are the only people with the correct information, they spend a lot of time trying to figure out who they should tell what to and what information is best for everyone to know versus is best for them to solve on their own, etc., etc. Our other two perspectives are from an earthling named Abasarala, who is just the baddest woman in the world, quite possibly. And a cop on Ceres, which is a rock essentially in the belt that people live on. And it follows them as well. And of course, these three perspectives eventually like come together because that has to happen at some point. But basically, they all trying to figure out what's going on in a galaxy. A bunch of stuff going wrong. A bunch of people die because humans can't get along, and science be sciencing because this is a science fiction show, heavy on the science and science fiction. The authors really tried to imagine, they based a lot of the things on the show off of real science. So it's things that either do exist or could exist in our scientific future. So basically, a bunch of stuff happens in the galaxy. People trying to figure out what's going on. Stuff gets crazy. People just trying to fight for what they believe in, and it's the best show of all time. And it runs for 6 seasons, which is perfect because it stops at the end of the sixth book, which is right before a 30-year time jump. And that is um. So, couple reasons why I think everyone should be watching the show. First and foremost, diversity. It's not a show that's diverse for diverse sake. It's really kind of based on where we are in the world right now. So obviously, Asian people are a global majority, Black people are right after that, and then you have other groups of people after that. And so a lot of characters on this show are, of course, Asian. And there are a lot of Black people in the cast too. Well, a decent amount of Black people in the cast. And I saw a Black woman, so I clicked because had it. And Naomi is a big part of the show. She's on our Rossi crew, so she's a main character. Then you have Fred Johnson, which is another big Black character. And then you have an army leader who's another big character in later seasons. And then you have a good foil to Naomi, a Black woman in season 5. I think there could have been more Black people, especially because we are one of the global majorities. Obviously, Asian people are like a huge majority, but I think there could have been more Black people, especially considering how many white people were on the show, and we definitely outnumber white people. So I would have liked to have seen that. And some of the fastest growing countries in the world right now are Black countries or Asian countries. So it just would make the most sense that there would have been more Black people. But that's okay because the ones on the show are actually great, especially Naomi and Fred. I think they're great. I also really love the army leader. I cannot think of that man's name right now, but he turns up. Okay, he's like, his moral compass is clear. He's like, I'm not with this. No. And so that's another great thing about the show. So it's not diverse just for diversity's sake, but there is a wide range of people represented, even when it comes to the kinds of Black people, whether the characters are British or American, and on the show that if they're a belter, they have a specific accent. So it's like all these different kinds of Black people, and then there's different kinds of Asian people too, whether they're from South or East or West. So it's diverse even within like certain races, which I think is awesome. So yeah, I love that. And yeah, and Black women, we get to shine. So love that. Also, complex characters. I think the storyline, for me, actually, I think the storyline is just like pretty clear. I think there is some science stuff that you have to follow within the storyline that can be a little complex. But the storyline, especially, I think the first season is the hardest part to follow when it comes to storyline, just because it's set up like kind of a neo-noir like mystery thriller, because it's really about finding this missing girl. Like everyone's trying to find this girl for different reasons, and so there's a lot of answers that the characters don't have, and so we don't have them either. So that's the way the show is, because you know how some shows the characters don't have the answers but you do. For this, it's like we're figuring it out with the characters sort of, but also too, I would say we're figuring it out more so with the Rossi crew. So the information that the Rossi crew has, we normally have, but that doesn't mean that Miller or Avasarala have that information. So, so that can be a little bit tricky when it comes to just like knowing what's going on. So I would just say, think of the first season as really kind of a mystery thriller, asking the essential question, which is what happened to Julie Mao. And I think if you go into it with that mentality, it's going to be a lot easier to follow. Just my personal opinion. Then after that, it's really straightforward. It's really easy to follow. What makes the show, I think, as complex as it is their first their utilization of real science, like I said. But I also think the characters. There is something in my eye. I also think I have a napkin here, thankfully. Keep those on deck. Always keep napkins by your screen. But I think the thing here is to always no, sorry. Let's backtrack. Get back refocused. I think what's awesome here is that every single character is complex, and because of that, it makes decisions made by said characters really interesting and intriguing because this isn't a show that has heroes and villains. I don't think so. I know some people go in automatically wanting to side with the protagonist and seeing other people as villains in the protagonist's way. I think it's a bit of a naive way to go into this show. I think you should go into the show knowing that people are trying to do what they think is best for their people, and sometimes just for them. And you'll learn who's who and who does what, but it's really about making the best decision for that character in that moment, and that doesn't necessarily make people good or bad. Now, are there some people who lean more on the side of not good people? Absolutely. But I think that it's complicated. Everyone's complicated, and people who you think are going to be bad end up being pretty awesome people, and people who you think are going to be good end up being a little bit more complex than that. So I think you should go into it like that. Like Amos, one of the Rossi crew members, is a lot of people's favorite character, but when you first meet him, you're like, this person doesn't seem. So just keep that in mind. But as you get learn about his character, and season 5 really belongs to him and Naomi. But as you learn about his character slowly, you really start to peel back the layers. So that's what I mean by everybody's complex. Everybody also has a role to play, and so Amos's role on the Rossi crew is very specific, especially when you learn about his personality. Uh, so I would just say keep that in mind. Of course, they say the best villain for last. Villain. I think with him, they do something to make it clear cut that he is a villain. Because honestly, as the show builds, him existing at all is not a surprise if you're watching the show. If you're paying attention, his existence in this world makes sense considering what they've done to his people. However, what he does in his personal life gets a little dicey, and I think is honestly what makes him an actual villain. What he does to other people, I mean, what did you expect when when you beat people down for so long, you have to expect people to respond in a certain way. And so for me, I loved it because it leads, and I loved his character because it leads to these really complex conversations. But like I said, they have to do something to solidify him as an actual villain or actual terrible person. And I think that really shows in how and some stuff that he does to some of his family members. But overall, I think he's a great character. I can't wait till you guys meet him. So that means you have to go watch the show. I think he's one of the best villains on TV, like in TV history. So again, villains. Hey y'all, editing Kayla here. Okay, so if you see this outfit, then you probably know what video I was recording, but I wanted to add this and I wanted to add it on video because it's important. Um, our last villain is also really hot. I feel like, I talk about hotness a lot in some of my early podcast days on You, Me, and the Multiverse, and I haven't been talking about it a lot in these reviews. And let me tell you, hotness is important, okay? But we love a hot villain. And so he is a very good, strategic, smart, crazy, villain. He is a villain because, like I said, I don't like what he does to his family, but he's also really hot. And, we like a sexy villain. We just do. We want them to be hot. Okay. We want them to be hot. I don't know if my mic, my mic loves not picking up my laugh, so I don't know if it did, but we want them to be hot. We want them to be sexy, and I think that's a thing with, I like watching hot people. I'm not above it. So I love a show or a movie that has hot people. And that's another thing The Expanse has going for it too. It has really unique looking people because it has to, because of its setting, but it also has some really hot people. And a lot of the shows and TV and movies, I mean, a lot of things Hollywood hires hot people. So we love hot people too. And that final villain, he's hot. And you get it. You get it. You don't get it after a while. He's one, you don't let him get too far. Well, you probably will, and then you'll regret it, which is quite literally what happens in the show. But yeah, yeah. So I just want to add that. Like this video, finish playing now. All right, bye y'all. See y'all in the next video with this outfit. Okay, bye. Um, but yeah, so the show is just wonderful in that regard. It really shows you like being in space may not be great. Just saying, may not be for me. Yeah, so I also think that there are a lot of wonderful guest stars and recurring stars. And like when I tell you every character is wonderful, even if they only show up for an episode. There's an episode that takes place on a space station that has to do with a bunch of kids. The guy in that episode who plays one of the fathers, phenomenal. There's an episode where a ship has to be hijacked, a refugee ship. The woman on that ship, phenomenal. There's just so many like even great, outstanding guest stars. Everything actually surrounding that ship, even how they get off the planet and the guy who helps him off the planet, all that. It's just that he's another great guest star. There's so many great guest stars as well. Like they make every character matter. And you guys probably hear me hitting the table with my hand, but they make every character matter. It's wonderful. It's really great. And obviously the story is based on a book, so they knew where they were going. So it's very clear cut. But even still, book to TV or book to film adaptations don't always hit. Not everything could be the Hunger Games. But I thought that as you can tell, I love the Hunger Games. Different talk, different talk. But I loved this, and I thought that they adapted this really well, like really well. Let's see. I'm gonna check out my handy dandy list, make sure I didn't forget anything. There's one thing I forgot. Okay. So I already said too, like the leads are great too. I think sometimes the leads can suffer. But the leads are also wonderful. Holden is wonderful. The show is really kind of his show in those first couple of seasons, but yeah, it's wonderful. And it's a show that gets better every season. Like, you guys know how hard it is for a show to sustain itself. I mean, some shows past season 3, right? I don't think shows should run longer than 7 seasons personally. But I think this show gets better every season to the point that where season 3, I said season 3 and season 5 are my favorites. I just think that they're awesome. And yeah, and I think with season 6, they had a limited amount of episodes, but they really stuck the landing, and it's just so, and I think that was hard to do with how limited they were in their episodes, and they had to deal with an actor who did some stupid stuff. So they had to stray away from the books a little bit because of that. So I think they worked with what they got and they stuck the landing, even though season 6 wasn't necessarily my favorite. But seasons 3 and season 5 are like whirlwinds. Like, and I think season 3 and season 5 are a lot of people's favorite seasons. And like I said, season 5 really belongs to Amos and Naomi. But yeah, it's just what a great show, and it's just so complex, and it talks a lot about the human condition, and you know, it also talks a lot about colonization, and it talks a lot about power, and just like experimentation, and there's a lot of just like great things on the show. Some people may not agree with this, and I'm okay if you don't. I sometimes tell people, like, to me, Earth felt like white people, Mars felt like other people of color, and the belt felt like black people. And when you watch the show, you'll know what I mean by that. That's just my opinion. Like I said, everyone may not agree with it, but I do think, regardless of how you see race or what's the word I'm looking for? I can't, I don't know why my brain isn't working. But regardless of how you see race or culture or anything like that, I think that the show is will still satisfy you in many ways, even if you don't see it the exact way that I see it. And I promise you, I'm probably gonna think of the word after, and I'm gonna put it at the bottom of it. So yeah, so that's what I'll say. Again, going to that first season, just asking yourself the question, what happened to Julie Mao? And I think that'll help you a lot with that first season. And yeah, just know that there's a lot of complex issues that the show takes on, and just does in like a beautiful way. And it talks about a lot of um, things and how humanity, may not change a lot in the future. We will make things worse, and then we will find a way to continue to make it worse, even after we've seen how terrible it is. But that is a negative view. So I'm also going to say that there are humans who also want to figure out how to make it better. And I think that this show does a great job of showing both of those groups of people and also showing the people in between. So, okay, that's enough of me talking about the Expanse, because I could literally be here forever. I do want to do a deep dive or a deep discussion on it because I think it's great, and I think it's powerful, and so I really want to talk to people who love it and get their opinions. But right now, that's my short stuff, my short bit on the Expanse and why I think you should watch it. And yeah, go forth, watch, come back, tell me what you think. And yeah. Oh, and some people say they don't get into it into the fourth episode of the first season because it's crazy. I was into it after the first episode because something crazy also happens in that episode. So at least give it to episode 4. Like I said, I was on to episode 1, but it may take you to episode 4. Okay. All right. I'm done. I promise. Okay. Have a great day, y'all, and see you in the next video. All right. Bye.